Nathan Spencer.
Tallulah Payomokaye.
Michael Stevenson.
David Eatman.
Thank you. Are there any, I know we have a couple additions, but from the board, are there any revisions or additions to the agenda?
I just want to add one discussion item regarding policy for homeless riders.
Okay. Do you want to, where would you like to add that?
Wait, for some reason I'm missing my agenda. Probably somewhere, maybe in finance and policy, because I think that it will end up in that committee.
Okay. That works for me.
And Madam Chairman, I have one item.
All right.
Under Finance and Policy, bylaws.
All right, perfect. All right, are there any amendments or additions to the agenda? Any additional? Okay, I would like to go over the approval of the December minutes.
I don't think they're included.
Okay. You want to we're going to hold off then on approving the minutes. We'll hold off to, do we need to make a motion? We'll hold off to approve the minutes for February, the December minutes for February. Can we make a motion?
I'll second that.
All right. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you. We have no staff items, but we do have notes. So I'm going to pass it over to David Eatman to give us an update on items for the agenda.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over one little housekeeping item in regards to the agenda itself. We're going to our intention is to do two things. One is we want to transition to Board Docs. Board Docs is the electronic system which council currently uses, where citizens can go to the city's website and pull all information for all boards and for the council and some boards and commissions currently. That will take a little bit of training, but I think that with about a 15-minute review during one of our meetings in the next couple of months, we can show you how to do that, and it will be very efficient to allow us to load documents. The good thing about that is I'm sure that we've all sat here at some point and said, you remember that item that we covered, but I can't remember when that was. Well, you can actually query that system, and it can bring up every time you said bus shelter or Gillig bus or any other item that it may be. And so it's almost like a web search of all of your documents. So we're going to be transitioning to that. One other thing is that because of somewhat of an anomaly, you got a not blank agenda today, but you got an agenda without any real content other than all of our normal backup reports and things of that nature. When it comes to committees, we're going to follow pretty much the way the council committee structure currently works, is that under those committees, everything is really listed as pending. So as long as an item has not been reported out, or the board has not chosen to discontinue that item as an item of discussion, it will show up under that committee as pending. So from now on, you're going to see everything that sits in every committee, as long as it hasn't been reported out, or as long as the board has not voted to say that we do not want to review that item any further. So those are just a couple of changes. Again, it's going to take us a couple of months to get to the electronic format, so you're still going to receive your paper agendas at least through February, March. But we'd like to make a goal of potentially April to have everything electronic on that new system. That means that we would be coming back probably in March at the latest as well, with a quick little overview of how to get into the system and how to look at documents, things of that nature. So again, that's just my quick little update. If there's other thoughts, processes about what is preferred, or that's just a horrible idea, that's the reason for us to bring that forward today. Let us know, and we can certainly make adjustments and move forward as directed by the board.
Does that mean, just have a quick question, does that mean that at the future board meetings after that, we would just bring our computers for the agenda, or we just?
We could do that. I mean, we could still provide paper copies, but I think that getting that over to an electronic format is very beneficial from a historical records standpoint, and also for the general public to be able to pull that information. So we can do that either way. Some boards and commissions have gone completely paperless, but there are many individuals to this day that still like that hard copy. And I would say that sometimes I still like my hard copy, quite honestly. But also, I think it's very helpful to have it within that board documents environment.
Okay, thank you for that.
I have a related question to boards and commissions. I know it's on the city calendar, and I'm wondering if we're getting any more information about this, that I think one Saturday later this month, I think on the 25th, there's an all-day meeting for everybody who's on any board or commission. Do you have any details about that, and are we expected to go?
So I know that they were sending out letters, so I do not know exactly who those letters were going out to. It was either an email, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I did get one. And this, but it,
I got one too.
yeah, the chair of the committees and the.
Oh,
Okay. Does that mean one member from the RTA or a member from each committee? Okay. But more than one could attend, though, right? Okay. Okay.
So that's certainly discussion among the board members there. I know that, as you stated, the letters were sent out, but that was pulled from the clerk's office information of who's on the individual boards and commissions.
maybe one of us should forward the invite to everybody, and then whoever, I did RSVP, but maybe anybody else who wanted to can also.
I got an email, so I.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay.
So I guess all the chairs will be going. Is that correct? Karen, you're going?
I believe I did RSVP.
Okay.
And you're going, and okay, yeah, so then I guess we'll be covered. Okay, that's perfect. Anything else? All right, did you have any more on the brief discussion of the TPAC and COR budget?
Mr. David Walker is going to give a
Oh,
quick
David Walker, I'm
little overview. We wanted to bring you up to speed. We're going to moving quickly into budget season. We're not wrapping up, but we're just getting into the final stages of our recommended items for our TPAC budget. That hasn't gone out for public comment yet. That will go out later at the end of this month. And I'm not going to steal all of David's information, but we're also in very somewhat early stages of the development of the city's component of the transit budgets as well. So we'll be sharing those in committee over the next month or two, specifically budget and finance, or I'm sorry, policy and finance.
And policy.
I get my TPAC and RTA committees a little bit crossed there. So David, take it away.
Yeah, we just wanted to do a very quick update on what our FY21 work plan is, and we're not going to get into any details, just really a high-level overview. We came to both Route Committee and Marketing back in October with what our operational and capital projects to be submitted were. If you'll recall, we're submitting for additional funding for Carolee Route and the Glenwood Corridor to increase the Crabtree to high-frequency network route operating every 15 minutes and all-day service on the Briar Creek 70X. And the 21 would become a 30-minute route all day long. We're submitting for multiple capital projects. Don't really have any details on all the specifics. We'll get into that next month. But lots of acquisition of right-of-way for both facilities, for transit centers, for operations and maintenance facilities, and shelter projects. And let's see, we still have a few smaller items that we're working on that will be submitted. But as David mentioned, the draft FY21 work plan request for all agencies in Wake County will be posted on the Campo website later this month for a minimum of 30-day public comment period, and that will close at some point in the latter part of February. So we will come back in February to the full board with a report of all of our projects, just for a quick review. And, David also mentioned we'll be coming to the Finance and Policy Committee with budget numbers that are being requested for all of these projects, and then hopefully the first draft of our City of Raleigh budget. We've had some initial internal conversations already for public engagement activities in regards to the FY21 work plan, and we're working on scheduling some dates and locations for engagement along the Carolee and Glenwood Avenue corridor, because those are the two major routes that are being impacted. And that's about it, unless you have any questions.
I have no questions. Anybody else have questions?
So more to come very quickly in February and March.
Actually, I didn't mention the Garner service. We did have that as an initial FY21 request. That got changed to a third quarter amendment for FY20. We didn't need any additional money. We are able to implement a second bus and 30-minute frequencies on our Garner route that we just implemented in, when did we start that? In May. And so we'll be improving that service at no additional cost, assuming it passes the amendment process.
Will that third quarter FY20 means sometime this quarter, right? So if it passes the amendment process, it should go into effect.
Right. It will be voted on by the two executive boards, I believe, at the end of February. So we should have potentially approval to do that and start the service with our May run pick.
Okay. And is it going to be? Are you guys already putting it into the run sheets so that?
We're starting the planning process for that, but it has to be approved by the boards first.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, our operations is aware and gearing up for it.
David, you did say 30 minutes all day for Curly. Is that on the 70X? Is that all day, right?
70X would be hourly service all day.
Day service, okay.
With a connection to the high frequency network Crabtree route at Pleasant Valley Shopping Center.
Right.
So it wouldn't come all the way down to Crabtree. We would shorten that route so that it connects at the end of the line, and that will give us some opportunities to maybe come off of Glenwood Avenue and serve some of the residential and high density areas along Glenwood Avenue.
And we have some facility implementation planned or improvements for the Pleasant Valley
Right.
area as well.
We actually just
Infrastructure.
We did improve that site not too long ago, and we're asking for funding to make that a enhanced transfer center. That's it.
Thank you. All right, we have one more about the city attorney's office.
That was just information.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to read it?
That is completely up to.
Does everybody have this note?
No.
Oh, we were referring to the last meeting, asking about the city attorney being able to be at the meeting. This is just letting, obviously, that he's not available for the January meeting, but he would be available for February if we still wanted to speak to the city attorney about anything. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, we are moving on. We have about 15 minutes before we have public comments. There are no information items. I do want to give a salute to Mr. Monroe Watson. Hello, Mr. Monroe Watson. Please come forward. Come on. While he's walking here, we just want to give Mr. Watson a salute for 38 years of service. And if you think that's impressive, he has 3 million safe miles, making sure that our riders and our riderships get around where they're going, where they need to be. Thank you for your service, sir. I'm sure you know and understand how important it is, public transportation, especially having riders and drivers, who really understand the importance and care about the ridership of them trying to get around. So you understand how important these 3 million miles are for people to get to health care, to get to jobs, to get to grocery stores. So you yourself have done an amazing service to the Raleigh area, not just in your job of driving, because he just retired last Friday. Very well, Duke. Applaud to you for that. Matter of fact, we want to give you a standing ovation. I do. We want to give you a standing ovation for your time and your service. Woo-hoo. Thank you, Mr. Watson. And since you have graciously left our service, rightfully so, after 38 years, we want to give you an opportunity if there's anything that you want to say to the RTA or just in parting.
You just left out the part accident-free.
Accident-free, that's right. That's what I said. 3 million safe miles.
Safe miles.
Safe miles meaning accident-free. That's right. You got to say it all.
Get it all.
You got to say it all. That is true. Thank you so much for your service, sir.
It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you. We hope to have more operators like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to jump into our committee notes really quickly. They're pending out items from the route committee, but I think that meeting was canceled this month, wasn't it?
So there was no route committee, that is correct.
Okay. So then we'll move on to the Finance and Policy Committee. And we have 3 items. We have 1 item and 2 additional items, and the first one is the R line.
Okay, to refresh your memory, at our last full board meeting, I requested that the report for the R-line be taken into our committee, so I could ask a few more questions, which we did yesterday. And staff presented their equity analysis, service equity analysis that was done for the R-line, and explained to me the scope and intent of the study and the methodology that was used. And based on that, they did a very thorough job and a really good report out. And the committee felt like it was ready to be back to the board with a recommendation to approve it.
Okay. So we're going to make a vote on that?
Yes, and then we need to vote on that. And the second thing is, so that's for the service equity analysis that was completed. And then we would need to vote to approve, to move the new route recommendation forward to, for approval for the actual route. My understanding is the public comment period was already completed.
Okay.
So the first vote would be to approve the service equity analysis.
That is correct, and if that did not make it into this agenda package, then we can certainly adopt that at the next meeting. Again, when we are moving forward with implementation, that's not going to happen instantaneously. So again, I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable about adopting something they haven't seen. So we can do that either way. We can adopt it today, or we can adopt that in February.
Has everybody had an opportunity to, though we have a copy of it, has everybody on the committee had an opportunity to read it?
Are there any changes from the last version of the equity analysis that you guys sent out? It seemed thicker before, so, and a lot better pictures now, so.
I think Ms. Morgan Simmons is going to come up, and she was working very closely with the team that put this document together, so I'll let Morgan respond.
Sorry, no changes have been made since it was last submitted out to the committee. I don't believe it was sent out to the full board. However, that's why we have a copy of it for you all today. However, like what Mr. Eatman indicated, if you all prefer to have another review of it and have an opportunity to review and bring it back, then that is entirely up to you.
How do you all feel?
I think we should review it, because I just got it today. And we don't
we should.
vote next month.
Do you mind if we table this to the February meeting?
Not at all.
Okay, I would make a motion that we give the board an opportunity to read through the R-line service changes and equity analysis, and table this for a vote for the February meeting.
I second that.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, all opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We'll just review this at the February meeting, but we thank you for the time that you put in, and we want to take time to read it through.
Not a problem, not a problem. And if you have questions, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So therefore, I assume we would also need to defer the vote on the route, or until that review is done?
Okay,
Okay.
you want to make the motion?
So I move we defer that into the next meeting till the full board has had a chance to read the equity analysis.
A second. All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Before,
Aye.
what are we voting on? I'm not clear. What are we putting off to root committee?
Nothing to the root committee, but several members wanted to read the equity
Oh, I
analysis.
got that, but the second thing.
Is actually to approve the route.
The new R-line route.
But that vote logically should follow the review of the
Okay.
equity analysis.
Because I did have a question about what happened in your committee discussion.
Well, so I was a bit unclear as to the scope and intent of the study and the equity study and what it encompassed. And so now that it's clear to me and what staff was tasked to do, I felt satisfied that they met the mandate and that we should approve it. Now, there are some other questions lingering in my mind that are kind of bigger picture, more policy-based, that I don't think it's within the purview of us, of our board to take up upon ourselves. So within the scope that was defined, I think the job was done very well and that we should approve it.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so it has been moved, and we didn't vote on it yet?
No, I don't.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of holding off approval of the R-line services until February after everybody's had an opportunity to review the equity analysis, say aye.
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 a
All
long
opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We will hold off on approval of the R-line until February as well. And then we have two added items. I want to jump into the bylaws that you wanted to add and then move on to the homelessness rider agenda.
Okay, so you may recall that the subject of bylaws has been kind of floating around for a while. So at the last meeting, I requested and we brought it back to the Finance and Policy Committee for further study. So Morgan Simmons and other staff had created a draft outline and really did a really great job of kind of referencing other statutes and policies within the city and the state and other sources, and put together this outline and started to put some flesh on the bones in terms of content. So we only were able yesterday at our meeting to get through half of it, and we had a lot of great discussion and back and forth and comment. Morris was there, and so at our next meeting in February, we will go through the second part. And in the meantime, staff will take our comments from the first part and start to update that. And then so our intention is by our March meeting to have a draft of the entire document to bring to the board for review and comment. And also, as I understand, by that March meeting, the city attorney would have done just kind of a legal review to make sure, all of the language is consistent with the city municipal code and state statute, what have you. So our intent is to bring it back in March for the full document in a draft form for discussion and comment. And I will say that going through that discussion yesterday, I think it's going to be a really useful document because it just clarifies how we do things. That I think we kind of do it instinctively or on past precedent, but some of it's a little fuzzy and murky, and this just provides clarity about how it goes forward. And I think it'll be a very useful thing to have.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, any questions and concerns on the bylaws or the meeting and development? All right, we're gonna move on to another added item on the agenda, which is the homelessness riders.
All
The
right.
homeless riders, excuse me.
Appreciate that. So
Thank you, Morgan.
there's been, especially as it's gotten colder, there's been more attention on talk about providing passes and access for homeless riders, specifically through shelters. I've heard some details that Oak City Cares has some that they give out, but I was looking to see if Finance and Policy could work with staff to study what our policy is with getting passes to the shelters so that it's controlled and we're not handing them out to everyone, but that that we're providing access, especially for that population at risk. They access to rides for jobs and stuff like that can be very, very helpful. And quite honestly, a way to get out of homelessness if possible. So I think that it would be great for us to explore that.
I think that's a great idea.
So you'd like to refer it to Finance and Policy?
I'd like to refer that to finance.
Are you making a motion?
I would like to make that a motion.
Second.
All right, it's moved and properly seconded to have Finance and Policy Committee consider policy that the RTA can govern around homeless riders and giving free passes to homeless. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. It will be moved to the Finance and Policy Committee to consider. Thank you so much. We are at 3:56, and we have the Marketing Committee, but are there any items from the Marketing Committee to discuss today?
Just a report.
Okay, so before we get to that, since we just have 4 minutes, do we have any public comments? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna pause a scotch early. 4 minutes early, I'll pause the meeting at 3:56 for public comment. All right, we have one public comment from Mr. Dwight Spencer. Please come to the microphone and state your address.
I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. And Madam Chair, I just for FYI, on January the 23rd, and I will email you the questions, Madam Chair. On January the 23rd, I will be interviewed by ABC News about transit, and I will email you the questions and answers that they have somewhat prepared for me. And I can assure you, Madam Chair, that I will not degrade the transit system in which I love and the transit system in which I think is one of the best in the state of North Carolina, and I will make that very clear to the reporter who will be interviewing me. But I do want to say one thing, and I'm going to ask just for about 2 or 3 minutes extra. I will not be coming back before you until after February. And I'm glad that the city attorney was not able to make it, because under the advice of my attorney, Mr. Damian McCullers, who is my attorney, and my other legal advisor, Mr. Charles Francis, I have enjoyed working and being a strong advocate for transit, and I'm going to continue to fight for transit. I'm going to continue to fight for those bus operators who want a voice. I do have some stuff on our agenda through the Bus Operator Support Team of North Carolina, and I'm going to be presenting that, either myself or someone working with me. But after this visit here, I am going to prepare myself for this interview with ABC News. I am going to prepare myself for what we call anxious to get into court for all these other bogus charges that have been brought against me by TransDev management staff, and we are very anxious to get into court next month. But I do want to briefly recap you, because I don't want either one of you to think that I am a transit villain, and I want those who are viewing this TV, this proceedings, the same thing. And very quickly, this was the scenario of my transit advocate life, and I appreciate you all for listening and opening up your ears and eyes to what you got at hand right now. Back in the summer, back in August, I think, I got in a confrontation with a bus driver, okay? The bus driver was not on a transit bus, was nowhere near a transit. I did come on the premises at that particular time to call a supervisor to kind of smooth out the situation, Mr. Kendall Riddick. The camera was facing Moore Square Park, former Moore Square Park. Okay, had nothing to do with transit, bus, nothing. I never do that. With the RPD who do security, coerced this gentleman to take out an assault charge, which was not true. We have not received the tape yet, which my attorney have subpoenaed it, and we have not received the tape yet. And after that incident, we have went to court 2 times on that. And because of what this management has tried to do by intimidating me, retaliating against me, and tarnishing my reputation, which they could never do, 2 judges have recused themselves from the case because of our relationship. Secondly, as most of you was there on September the 19th, the Go Raleigh Transit meeting was at Go Raleigh headquarters. I rode out there with a board member, Mr. Danny Coleman. It gets real funny. And then at that particular time, Ms. Marie Parker, the general manager, also, they called in a supervisor to get me out. We left out with no incident at all. And then, so we went outside, 2 policemen came. The police asked what was going on. We told them what was going on. And then the excuse they used that there was a confrontation that Mr. David Eaton said that this confrontation with a bus driver. Okay, understandable. They said the bus driver, this was his workplace. Understandable. They asked me to leave. Okay, we did. I left with Mr. Danny Coleman. I did, with no incident. A week later, September the 24th, Matthew McCall, general manager, under the instruction and coerced by the RPD who do the security, filed a second-degree trespass and disorderly conduct. As most of you was there, know that there was no incident on September the 19th. I got a charge for that. They arrested me for second-degree trespass. Now, before September the 19th, Miss Marie Parker, Mr. Morris Cook filed a slanderous charge against me. This was filed on August the 16th. Now, I was on the campus September the 19th. Why didn't they arrest me on the August the 16th charge? She said I came to her place of work, stalking her. Never been to Go Raleigh headquarters since Mr. Wilson retired a couple of years ago until then, September the 19th. Bogus. So, all I'm saying is that, so I was sitting in court on the driver charge, which that judge, Jim Fullwood, recused himself again from the case, from that hearing. I was arrested again in court in front of one of the authority members, Mr. Danny Coleman, from the slanderous stalking charge this general manager said that I'd done. And Mr. Morris Cook, the safety manager, said I'd done. Nothing can be proven by that. If so, we want to see it. Okay. Went there, no problem. Got out, no problem whatsoever. I have worked very hard in this community for my reputation. I run a very successful business at 205 Fairview Street, Suite 220. And in the midst of a lot of people, and I am very happy of what I've done. I'm going to continue to fight for transit. I'm going to continue to be an advocate. But as I've been saying from the beginning, this is the type of management. I know TransDev contract is up in June, and I'm going to be working tirelessly to ask that another transit company come in here and put a bid in. And I hope the city of Raleigh RF did, put it out for bid. But I am going to say that I'm going to continue to fight for transit. I am going to continue to do what I do, because this is what I love. This is what I do. And I will use every speck of my power, the little bit that I do have, and I don't usually say that in public, to have this management removed from under TransDev, because if they've already showed retaliation, they've already showed division among their own. Now they'll overstep their boundary by doing it to me as an advocate. I'm not having it. And the people who are supporting me are not having it. And it's a bunch of lies. The RPD, who do security down at the hub, is in cahoots with this. We're going to prove that in court. So I'm just letting you know, be prepared for the repercussions after February, because there will be repercussions against TransDev, and I mean legally. And I'm very anxious to get in court to do it. But I'm going to continue to fight. The general manager, anybody else, is not going to silence me. I'm not going to sit still. I'm not going to stand still. I'm going to continue to fight for what I think is right. I'm going to continue to keep the community abreast of what's going on, always. Because right now, we have a management that oversees this massive transit system, and we're trying to do some good things with this transit system that I don't think deserve to be in the position of management overseeing our massive transit system. And that's the bottom line with me. And at this particular time, Mr. Morris Cook did call me and leave a message on my voicemail. And after last meeting, I am not supposed to have no contact. You asked Mr. Morris Cook, did he have anything he wanted to say to me? It's personal. It's nothing personal against Mr. Morris Cook. I don't know Mr. Cook on a personal level. And by no means I'm not a dummy. By no means I'm very intelligent, Ms. Parker. Very intelligent, Mr. Cook. But I did not return his call. That would have been another setup. Because I was supposed to have no contact, but he did call me. And if he wanted to say anything to me that he wanted to say on the phone, this is the time for him to do it. But I'm going to sit down, Madam Chair, and I thank you for this time. But I do want to ask each and every one of you, I think Mr. Morris Cook need to be removed from this transit authority until this proceeding with he and I into this court is resolved. I don't think it's fair for him to be sitting up here on this authority, and I will be talking to a couple of council members while the court proceedings is in progress. As an authority member, he can attend just like I can as a member, but as an authority member, he don't need to be sitting on this authority until the court proceedings is done next month. And again, I want to say thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for all that you did, and it's sad that we have a management such as this overseeing this transit system that have been coerced and that has been full of untruth. I'm not going to use the word, I'm just going to use the word professional word, untruth, on me as a citizen, but they're not scaring me. All they did was inspired me more to continue to do what I do. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much, okay? Appreciate you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak. Dwight, in this public session, I hope that it does end for the best of all parties involved. I don't think that we can vote on removing Morris. That's not within our purview, or it would be something that we would have to talk to the city attorney about. Am I correct when I say that?
That is correct. Other than normal proceedings, the membership of the Transit Authority is a council action.
Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we would not be able to do that, fortunately or unfortunately, forever, whatever perspective you're coming from with that. We are going to do what we can do, and that's not, but we thank you for being able to speak in the public session, the public comments. All right, so we are going to go back to the Transit Authority meeting, calling it back to order at 4:08. Going into this meeting, we'll slide into the Marketing Committee's report.
Thank you very much. We had a very busy, lively Marketing Committee meeting yesterday. I just wanted to report on three things that two things we took action on specifically. A couple of years ago, the Raleigh Arts Commission asked to partner with Go Raleigh and the bus system to promote public art on bus shelters, and we participated in that. And the end result was some clear wraps on about a dozen bus shelters that were placed throughout the city. And the Raleigh Arts Commission came back and asked us to do the same thing again. And so we're continuing to do that. And we discussed options for new bus shelters or in new parts of the city. We're going to continue working on that with staff. And we also agreed, because Brian Burnett agreed to be our liaison with the Raleigh Arts Commission on this project.
May I ask a question?
Pardon me?
May I ask a question?
No, you can't.
No.
Of course.
So were some of the wraps completed?
Yes, they've been up.
Okay.
It's like phase 2.
Yeah. Where are they? And you can tell me later. I'd like to have a look.
Perhaps Matt. I know Matt's here somewhere.
We have a
I
there he is.
was going to ask him if you could just email the map to all the RTA members.
Is that for the proposed or for the existing?
The existing, because we haven't finalized the proposed list yet, which we're
Okay.
going to work on. But
Thanks.
yeah.
So maybe I might add just a little bit from a context perspective. So some of the stops were slightly clustered, and so we're just going to see if we have them a little bit better distributed. So not only just ridership, but also passerbyers could see some of the artwork as well. Better for the city. Artists and so on and so forth, more equitable.
And one item that was brought up in that discussion was that Google Maps has murals in downtown listed, and there was a question of whether Matt can get the shelters with their art listed on Google Maps so that people could be able to find it even if they're not passing that shelter, and I think that's worthwhile.
Okay, the second item that we took action on is we agreed to a year-long sponsorship with the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, which is another opportunity for Go Raleigh to be promoted throughout downtown Raleigh events. And then finally, we spent a fair amount of the meeting at our board members' request. We wanted to review with our staff what we've been doing specifically with sort of a summary of our public engagement outreach on the bus rapid transit projects, which was, we got a lot of great information of the activities the staff has been doing, particularly over the last year, primarily led by Mila Vega, but staff from many departments have been involved in the process. What we wanted to do was look at where we could perhaps expand, well, specifically to expand our outreach to more members of the community, particularly what we're calling organic community leaders as well. And we brainstormed ways that we could be doing that beyond what staff has already been doing, which are all useful things to do, such as press releases and emails, blasts and postcards and things. But we also thought about some other more just a variety of other ways to engage the public. And at the moment, I have put together a list of what we came up with on our committee, and I've sent it to committee members waiting for input, and then I'm going to share it with staff members. Any questions or comments?
None from me. Any from anyone else? Thank you very much.
Well, and I just want to add, the reason why we wanted to do this is, as we all know, when we're in this process of expanding transit, if we're going to actually let our riders know and let folks who don't ride the bus as well know about the expansion of our new services, which are already proving successful, we're already building ridership, we need to do everything we can to make sure we're reaching as many people we can in the public so that the taxpayer money that's going into expanding the Wake Transit Plan is being well used. And also, because we're introducing really a new technology of bus rapid transit that has implications for beyond just traditional bus service, how it affects development, how it affects people's neighborhoods, their livelihoods, we think it's really vital that we bend over backwards so that we're really engaging community members so that folks are, understand what's happening, feel like they've had a real voice, and hopefully, in my opinion, that we can move forward with a successful implementation on the timeline of the Wake Transit Plan, which is a 10-year plan that we're about 7.5 years into. So that's kind of the reasoning behind all that. But I think the conversation will be continued, and we're always open to input. And the staff has been great about listening to ideas.
Very good. Yes.
About 3.5 years into, right?
3.5 years, thank you very much. That's right, it's 2012. We started collecting the tax in 2017, 18, 19. We only started collecting the tax in 2017.
Correct.
2018, didn't it?
Well, the referendum passed in 2016. So we started
April
collecting
of
April
17 was the
2017.
receipt of the
So we're
first
closing in
revenue.
on 3 years. We're not there yet.
That's right.
A little different
Oh,
from
that's
7,
right,
yes.
because midway through the calendar year is our fiscal year, so, yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you for that, Karen. You know the women are always right, so I don't know why y'all debating with her at all.
Was a little different from 7, though.
Always got to be one. All right. Are there any more input or comments from the marketing committee? All right. Are there any concluding remarks from any of the authority members?
I forgot to mention something, if I could. In the bylaw discussion, actually the very first item is name of the organization. So that made me remember that we have had discussions about our name. And specifically, there's a lot of confusion about the RTA and the RTA. we're the RTA, Raleigh Transit Authority, but there's the Regional Transit Alliance. And I think in a lot of people's minds, they don't even understand they're two separate entities. I personally think we should seriously consider going to a name that uses Go Raleigh. And we talked about it, and David said Mr. Eatman said that would be a request or petition from us to City Council with our recommendation. And I feel like this would be the time, when we're doing the bylaws, this would be the time for us to take that back up again.
I really appreciate that, because as you know, I've been an advocate for that since I've been on the board, and we have had conversation about it. And given that there is a new city council, new mayor, there may be a new opportunity to have that conversation.
Yep.
I love the idea of including it in the bylaws.
Yep.
As a way to formally carry it out. We probably should have a conversation about that with our city council representative, Corey Branch.
Corey, yeah, sure.
Again, so why don't we talk about
Okay.
communicating with him about it?
Great.
My vote is for Go Raleigh Guardians.
Go Raleigh
The Go Raleigh Guardians.
Guardians.
I like that a lot, actually. One comment, at the Tuesday city council meeting, there was discussion about the bus shelters, specifically the new red ones that are being demoed out at the Museum of Art. It was, the mayor instructed the city staff to put together an event that includes the Transit Authority and the council in the next 30 days. So we should probably be expecting an invite to do some sort of thing, and probably lots of photos and stuff like that. We should all visit Brian and get ourselves spiffed up. So,
Nathan, did the council indicate what would the next steps be on that after there was an event? What is?
the next steps would be a survey, and then any changes based on that, and then implementation.
If I could
that's-
as well.
Public survey?
I'm sorry?
I was just going to provide a little extra
Yeah,
content if it's okay. So that is great information. My apologies. I should have brought that up as well. We'll provide some comprehensive outline of kind of like next steps or what's going on in a memo to this board as well as to council this week. Tomorrow's Friday, so that's pretty soon. But we'll get that out to everyone via email. You are 100% correct. We'll provide some transportation out to the North Carolina Museum of Art. Hopefully that will be in conjunction with maybe an event there as well. We'll have the opportunity to try out the shelters and let everybody really see that new product. We'll also have a survey available and online as soon as that information goes out to everybody. So the survey will go live as early as Monday, and then we'll start promoting that in advance of actually going out there. So we'll have a survey, we'll have an on-site visit, then we'll collect all that information back and be presenting that to you all as well as council in hopefully a fairly short time period. And I would think that we would provide a series of options. I don't know what they are. We'll wait to see what kind of comments come back first before we, provide what those options may be. But certainly, again, thank you so much for bringing that up. I had meant to, and it went right over my head. So thank you.
I hope one of the options isn't take 3 years to design and build new modern bus shelters. I just hope that, just as an aside.
I guess in the world of research and development, 3 years is sometimes not that long, but that shelter really was almost like a research and development project, and something that I'm not sure I would want to do for every single project, but it has been very, very interesting, but thank you.
We did discuss this in committee a bit yesterday as well, and just for information, there is a pretty good capital budget for rolling out new shelters over the next couple of years. So I think there should be a priority of using the new design, so not letting it drag out any longer. if there are more options to be studied, hopefully that's a finite number and it's done quickly, so we don't get into another round of, extending this schedule.
So after the studies and everything, we could hope that we can start seeing the new shelters out across the city. So long as people like them when they try, okay. All right, perfect. Any other questions or comments?
Hope everyone likes them.
Yes, hopefully. They're nice. I mean, we went through a whole lot. We're very invested in them. So who knows how people might feel about them. But it's good that we rolled them out in front of the art museum. It was the perfect place for them because they are some measure a piece of art themselves. We had a good number of people submit different models. So we have been at this for some time. But if there are not any more comments or concerns, if everybody's hearts and minds are clear, I want to call this Transit Authority meeting to closed, at 4:21.